ready.
You guys set, cameras? All right, thank you.
All right, first of all, just a little recap from last Saturday. Really kind of a tale of two halves. First half, very disappointing, and just really lack of execution on offense and defense. The game got away too fast. I felt like we had some opportunities there early in the first quarter, and just really couldn't do what we needed to do. And they made a bunch of plays. We gave up too many big plays defensively there. And I think really one of the early defining moments for our team was at halftime after such a disappointing half. And you talk about it and think that you're a little bit further ahead just mentally and prepared for the adversity. But ultimately, it's times like that where you really find out. You got to go out and do it. And definitely wasn't a perfect half in any stretch of the imagination. But I felt like out of the 8 quarters that we played, it was the first time, the third and fourth quarter last Saturday where we really started to play the way that I believe and know that we can. And really playing some complementary football. When you see the defense get a turnover and then the offense go down and get points, you see the defense hold them, and then the punt return team go out, get a punt return, offense go down and get points. I mean, that's what we have to do to be able to stay on schedule. And so hopefully, our guys will, coaches and players can learn from all the mistakes there in the first 2 games, and then, be able to have some confidence moving forward off that last half there on Saturday. And things we got to improve on, pretty obvious. I got to improve our tackling. We really got a lot of the big plays came from missed tackles where guys are in position, and we just didn't get them down. I thought that was one of the big differences in the game. You saw whenever our skill guys got in space and looked like we had a chance to get to the corner, their guys were there, made the tackle. And then whenever we were put in the same position, they won. And we didn't get the guy down on 4th down in several of those plays. And so that's going to continue to be an emphasis. We've got to find ways to limit the big plays. We went into it wanting to be aggressive against the run and make them have to make the throws. And they made the throws against us that they didn't make the week before. And so we made some adjustments defensively at halftime to play more coverage. And I think we did a much better job of containing the deep passes, but that's going to be an area we got to, as coaches and players, we got to eliminate the big plays. Offensively, I do believe that we're getting closer. Pretty pleased, with how we've run the ball. I think kind of what we've seen in the first 2 games, we're probably a little bit more ahead running the ball than we were in fall camp, and we're not quite where we thought we were going to be throwing the ball coming out of fall camp. Really felt like we were in a better position. And offensive line, I feel like has been doing a good job. I think the fact that they've only given up 1 sack in 2 games against 2 good defensive fronts, I think that is one of the positives. But we still got to get more consistent play from the quarterback position. We've had 2 games and had some opportunities for guys, and again, just not consistent enough. And that's really every team and every offense kind of runs through your quarterbacks, and so we've got to coach those guys better to make the right decisions in the RPO game, and maybe adjust a few things that we're doing to simplify it, to make sure that we're cleaner on our execution. Because when we do execute, we move the ball, and we showed that as well. I thought early on we did a good job on 3rd down, and then later on we obviously didn't, and hurt us from having a chance to score some more points. We're not going to name a starter right now. We're going to go through. Obviously, we've evaluated and learned some things from this last game. But really, we're challenging all the quarterbacks in that room to have a great week and just kind of see who does the best job with the game plan for this week. And then we'll put somebody out there first. They go out and do well, they'll be the starter. If they don't, then we'll continue to give other guys opportunities until somebody steps up and takes the job, which needs to happen here pretty soon. As far as some of the positives, we're unfortunately, I guess it's not a positive, we're short on depth. Micah Point will be out this week and probably for the next couple of weeks with a hip injury. Hopefully we can get him back, but again, I felt like defensively we just unfortunately don't have as much depth, but I felt like the guys watching the video, the 3rd and 4th quarter, those guys continue to strain, continue to play hard, even though we didn't have many guys being able to get in there. And as coaches, we're going to have to kind of force feed some of these younger guys that maybe we were hoping would have another year before they have to go play. But with these injuries that we're kind of going through right now, that we're going to have to get some of those guys ready. So again, they mean simplifying what we're doing to put ourselves in the best position. I thought another positive was we had 2 penalties Saturday. And both penalties were definitely avoidable. On the punt, where we hit the punt returner, it should never happen. And then, Thad Mangum was just playing hard and got over there a little bit too late, and he's got to realize that. But that is a positive. I feel like also the special teams through 2 games have been pretty solid. Think about going into the season with a new punter, and he's done really well. I felt like the protection against 2 good athletic and big punt block teams. We've done a good job protection there. Obviously, it was good to get the punt return that we had there with Weaver and kind of his limited action back there. So that was good. And then field goal operation did a good job today, Saturday, getting us some opportunities finally to go out there. And overall kickoff coverage, we kept them inside the 25. So those are some of the positives, but it's still very early in the season. And I think it's the coach's job to kind of figure out now that we've seen our guys play, what we do well, and maybe if we need to tweak a few things within our schemes, we will, especially with kind of seeing what personnel we have available. So that's our job. We've got to put the guys in the best position, and then the guys got to continue to work and continue to improve. But they've responded well. They're looking forward to the game this Saturday. With FAMU, many of our players went to high school with these guys from FAMU. Our players have been talking about this game, even in the off season, even though obviously we had 2 big openers. They're really excited about this one. I've got a lot of respect for FAMU's head coach, Willie Simmons. He and I were teammates at Clemson for 3 years. We came in the same year, in the same class. He was a quarterback and I was a wide receiver, and really proud of him and kind of his career here in the coaching profession. He's done a really good job there at FAMU. They didn't play last year due to COVID, but in 2019 they went 9-2, and then this year, really, they're 2 points away in that first game from being 2-0. So he's done a good job. I think the thing that stands out is their skill positions. The running back and wide receivers; those are kind of their most dangerous players. They get the guys the ball in space. And they have a really good change of direction. That's going to be a good challenge for us of making sure that we leverage those guys the right way and not let those guys get outside of us, and be able to tackle those guys. And then defensively, they've got a really good scheme. They know what they're doing. The defensive front has done a really good job this year, and I like both of their safeties. So this would be a good opportunity for us. Again, really just having to trust the process and continue working to get better, and but I'm definitely glad that we're going to be back at home this Saturday evening. So with that, I'll open up for any questions.
Jeff, a couple weeks ago, Florida State plays Notre Dame, played really well and loses, but gets some momentum. Then last week they played Jacksonville State and lose the game as well. What do you need to prevent that from happening? Because you're coming off a similar situation where you play well against a really good team that lose, and now you're playing a team everybody's going to expect you to. How do you make sure that your players don't look past that?
Well, number one, we haven't done anything to be able to look past anybody, for sure. They've won a lot more games over the last year and a half, 2 years than we have. So I think everybody in our room knows that we got a lot of work to do. And I brought that up. I've also brought up, I think there's maybe been 4 or 5 FCS wins this year. So at the end of the day, it's football, and if you execute, you got a chance to win. If you don't, you can lose against anybody that you play. But we're definitely not in a position to overlook anybody. We're looking to go out and get our first win of the year, but our guys know. I mean, they're frustrated, rightfully so, not playing well in the first 2 games, and the only way you change it is put in the work and have the right mindset, attitude every day that you go out there, and then go out and play well. And then all of a sudden, when you win, there's nothing like a win. Being able to kind of give you some positive energy and momentum and all that. And so that's what our guys will be focused on this week.
Xavier Weaver a lot of big plays out of him the first 2 weeks, also on special teams. And he and Timmy in particular connected quite a bit. Is what I talk about. We talk about how Xavier's emerged to be that big play guy.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised in Weaver because he did a good job this past spring. Again, I had a chance to coach those guys and work with them every day in the spring, so I really got to see him. And obviously, we saw some plays he made in the spring game. And so we look at him as one of our top playmakers. Unfortunately, he was out in the first 10 days or whatever fall camp. He missed a lot of work and lost some of the weight that he had gained from the summer due to some illness stuff. But I feel like he's getting back into his routine and rhythm. I think the punt return, he really hasn't done that as far as I know. We asked him the week before the first game to get back there and work on it. He did a good job, and so that punt return he had the other day was one of the first ones I think that he's ever had. He looked very natural doing it, so I think that's going to give him confidence. But there's no doubt he's a weapon for us, and out of all the guys, he's the guy who's had the most opportunities and really finished some nice plays. So hopefully he'll continue to work. I know he will, and be a weapon for us moving forward.
Coach, you talk about having to force feed some players. With the 4-game redshirt decision, how important is that going to be to figure out, okay, we'll play these guys or we'll redshirt them in the next 2 games?
Yeah, and that's stuff we're talking about right now. We got a chart on who's played, and because really where it gets to you is special teams as well, because it all kind of rolls downhill. So when you're thin on defense, and all of a sudden you have to take Matt Hill and some of these starters that are now super valuable to your defense because they're one of the only 2 safeties left. And so now it goes to the next level in special teams. And so then that's when those freshmen start really kind of creeping up and getting some opportunities where they can help us. So those are some decisions that we have to make. The good thing is we're early in the year, so I mean, it's unfortunate we've already had some of these injuries that we have, but at least we know it early in the year where we can start getting these guys ready and make the decision who's going to play. And then some guys that aren't quite there, we'll prepare them and maybe just hold them on the sidelines in case we have to have them. So those are all discussions that we're having, within the staff and with those freshmen in particular.
Coach, you can't coach size, you can't coach speed. I'm looking at the film of Florida A&M. They may not have the size, but they can sure as heck got the speed.
Oh yeah, they've got good players. I mean, that's the one thing you turn on, you watch all these teams that are playing. Everybody's got good players, and there's no doubt. They got some guys that show up really fast on video, and you start writing down their numbers really quickly and finding ways to limit their touches. And our players see that. I mean, we watch all the video, they know, they see some of these guys they know from high school, and they have a lot of respect for them. So it's going to be a good challenge for us.
Those guys struggled offensively against Jackson State, but really had a nice game. I think 400 yards of offense against Fort Valley State. What did you see they did maybe a little bit differently between those 2 games on film?
Well, number one, Jackson State's got a really good defense. Watching those, Coach Prime has done a good job over there with the defense. But I think they've kind of found the rhythm. They've been going back and forth a little bit, similar to us as far as quarterbacks, trying to find their quarterback, who gives them the best chance. So you see that in both games. But I think they're really starting to settle in on the running game and running the ball well, giving the ball to those backs. They got some talented backs. And then they've done a good job of challenging the secondary with the perimeter screens. The majority of their passes last week were a lot of the screens side to side, and kind of put you in conflict in some of the run gaps and things like that. But you got to think too, they didn't play in 2020, so game 1 was literally the first game they played in 2 years. So you could definitely see an improvement on both sides of the ball for them week 2.
You feel you're getting closer on naming a starting quarterback, and are you pretty still confident you'll have one in place for the first conference game?
Yes. I think every game, right, you learn more, right? Obviously, the game footage is the best opportunity to evaluate the guys. So the more game footage you get, is it going to have to be perfect before we name our starter to move forward? No. We just got to figure out. But what I really don't want to do, if we can help it at all, I really don't want to go into the conference play and be rolling back and forth with guys. That was just very difficult last year. It's really not fair to the offense. So you really got to kind of to pick your guy and move forward. And so I think we're getting closer to that. Hopefully this week, somebody will separate out of that group, and maybe we can do that going forward up at BYU.
Sometimes when a guy is drafted in the NFL team will say, we really like that he played for a winning program, he knows how to win. When you signed Timmy and Jimmy, obviously very talented guys, but they played on an undefeated state champion team. Does having guys like that in your program bring benefits beyond the talent?
Absolutely, and that's something we look at in the recruiting process is, because if they're coming from a program that has discipline, accountability, is well coached, and run practices the right way and all that, it's easier for the guys whenever they get here to do that. And if they don't have a good foundation, then it takes them a year or two. So that's definitely part of that recruiting process of watching that. And whenever we got down to this is a year before he got here, we had to kind of make a decision on two guys. And the fact that he's there at Seminole and has had the success that they've had there and the type of program they have, that was definitely part of the conversation. And I think that's carried over, and that's one reason why as a freshman he's been able to go out. And obviously he hasn't played perfect, but it doesn't look like the game's too fast for him. He makes doesn't always make the right decision right now. We got to help him with that, but he makes quick decisions, and that's really what you need from the quarterback.
What's your overall game plan, and where do you want to improve team-wise and individual-wise for the FAMU game?
Yeah, well, the big picture is I want to see us play 4 quarters. I feel like we played 2 quarters out of 8, and that was kind of the message to the guys after the game. Is what we just did for those 2 quarters. Like that has to be, we have to play to that level for 4 quarters to be able to win a game, regardless of who you play. So that's probably the number one priority. And then as far as each position group and each side of the ball, just offensively, I just want to see us be able to get in rhythm and continue drives and eliminate the things, the easy things like a snap. Right? When we had 2 snaps. One everybody saw, obviously, on the 1 yard line. We ended up having to get 3 points instead of 7 points, and something very simple as a snap. And then the second one, we felt like we had another really big play open. It was right after Weaver's big catch off the 1 yard line to about the 50, and then we went a speed play, and we had Weaver running down the middle, but the quarterback can't get in the ball because the ball's on the ground. So again, the things that we control, we got to do a better job of that. I think we're kind of moving in the right direction where we're narrowing it down to just a few of those situations, and then just overall defensively, what we talked about earlier, making tackles, leveraging the ball the correct way, being in the right gaps and places we need to be, and eliminating the big play. And then just overall, special teams wise, continue to be consistent and make an impact whenever called on.
Obviously, staying ahead of schedule is something that you preach, something that every coach preaches in all areas of football. When you guys were rolling last week against Florida, that's exactly what you guys did. But when you look at it and you do set up on a 3rd and 10 or a 3rd and 12 or something of that nature, what do you guys have to do to start converting some of those 3rd and long situations?
Yeah, well, again, going in the game last week, we knew 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12 is not good against Florida because it allows those defensive ends to pin their ears back and go. And that's one reason we had a little success early, because we were able to run the ball and get in short yardage situations. But ultimately, it comes down to the quarterback making good decisions and putting the ball where it should be. I think, again, offensive line has done a pretty good job. The offensive line, running backs, and tight ends in our protections and things like that have done a good job. But ultimately, it's the quarterback, making the right decision and putting the ball exactly where it needs to be.